group, there may be a slide in the background that tells you that I'm Dean Stokes and I'm the chair of the education group. So really pleased to see you this afternoon. I keep saying we're relatively new, but I think a couple of the special interest groups of the IoD have kind of slipped in over the summer. But we've been around since April of this year, so we're a relatively new special interest group within IoD. We had our kind of objectives align very much with the Institute of Directors. So we're about connecting people, about helping members and today some non-members as well to develop, and on a really good day when things are going swimmingly, also to be influential. So with that in mind, as I say, I know there are some non-members and everyone is very welcome this afternoon. If anyone did want to inquire about membership, my colleague Yusuf, who on my screen is top left but might be somewhere else on yours, is here, and you can have a chat with him. He'll tell you a bit more about the facilities the IoD has around all regions of the country, about networking opportunities, about some of the events, things like today's, but many, many more, advice services, and because it's the IoD's 120th anniversary, also some discounts on membership if you're not already a member. I could go on, but I won't. As I say, Yusuf is here if you need him. But I'd also like to welcome Matt Paler, Marnie Bourne, also from the Careers and Enterprise Company, and Stuart Munton, who's from A&D Digital. And they're really the kind of the main act for this afternoon. As you probably know, we're working with the Careers and Enterprise Company on the launch, which took place just a few weeks ago, of their new free self-assessment framework on employer standards. And that, well, Matt will tell you some more, and Marnie, about this in a moment, but the framework enables businesses to understand what good careers education outreach looks like. And so far, since its launch and during the pilot, some really good feedback from employers who've already completed the employer standard as part of that. A number of comments have come back from them saying that it's helped them to develop talent pipelines, to close skills gaps, very importantly to increase diversity, and also to attract job and apprenticeship applicants. So I'm going to hand you over to the experts on this. Matt is going to talk to you first, and then so Matt's going to cover a kind of overview of the Careers and Enterprise Company. Marnie will talk about the employer standards for careers education and the framework, and Stuart has also very kindly agreed to give an employer view on the employer standards. So we're aiming to finish to allow about sort of 15 minutes or so of questions, but also discussion points. So without further ado, Matt, you're now centre on my screen. I'm going to stop and hand over to you. So Matt, take it away.
Thank you, Dean. Just going to present now. Okay, can I get a thumbs up from someone to say they can see that? Great. Awesome. Well, hi everyone, and thank you so much for having us join your group today. We are Career and Enterprise Company. Now, I know some people in this room will know quite a bit about us, and others will may never have heard of us. So I'm going to give you an overview over what we do and how we work directly with employers to support them before Marnie then talks about our new tool, the employer standards. So the Career and Enterprise Company are the national body for careers education in England. We support schools and colleges to deliver really high quality, modern 21st century careers education. Now, our mission is to really ensure that working with schools, colleges and employers to make sure that they can help every young person find their best next step. We know that every young person has different needs, and the careers education system really needs to understand and meet those needs of young people to help them understand what opportunities are available to them once they leave education. Now, we do this by bringing together employers, providers and educators through our careers hubs. Our careers hubs are based in the regions across England. There's currently 44 of them, and what they do is they provide opportunities to collaborate and innovate with schools and colleges alongside employers and providers and other educators too, And what they do is they work together to really ensure that they've created a world-class careers education system. Part of the key driver of system change here is that careers hubs work together to really test, trial, and evaluate what really works. We know that they're centres of excellence, and they really help schools and colleges to deliver and develop careers programs that support both a national intent, but also provide local implementation that's cohesive and addresses local skill needs too. From a national perspective, we train careers and education leaders. We provide quality assurance and ensure that the impact is being had from across the system. So we collect impact data from schools, colleges, employers, and young people. We work closely with many national sector bodies and representative bodies, including the IoD. We work with them to support them with their careers outreach and supporting their members. And then we also work directly with employers to support them with their high quality careers outreach. In terms of impact, we've got over 90% of schools and colleges, secondary schools and colleges in our careers hubs. Through our work, we've had over 93% of students now receiving employee encounters every year. And this is really important because I'm sure as some of you know, but a young person who receives 4 or more meaningful encounters with an employer is 86% less likely to be unemployed or not in education or training when they leave school. And they can earn up to more than 22% more during their career. So having those employer encounters is really important to quality careers education. Young people are now twice as likely to report awareness of apprenticeships by the time they reach year 11. And 91% of the employers who work with our careers hubs have said that their work in schools, colleges is supporting more young people to take up careers in their industries. So from the employer perspective, we know it's really strengthening their talent pipelines and helping them reach diverse new audiences and young people that shape the future of their workforce. So in terms of how we work directly with employers, we've got a number of different ways in which we support employers. First and foremost, it's all about connecting them into our careers hub system. As I said, they're active in over 90% of schools and colleges across England. And when we connect businesses into the careers hubs, they're able to engage with schools and colleges in a particular region or in multiple regions, and they can support those young people, but also teachers and career leaders to really help with high quality careers education. Through our Cornerstone program, Cornerstone Employer program, what we do is we work with businesses that are really serious about careers education and driving systemic change. We encourage them to join that network of over 300 Cornerstone employers who work directly with those careers hubs to ensure that high quality careers education is taking place in the region and that the employers are having a voice in shaping the programs in the region. For our enterprise advisor scheme, we recruit business professionals who volunteer their time to achieve positive change with schools and colleges. So they get paired directly with school and college, and they work with careers leaders there to shape the future of the careers provision in those schools. We've currently got over 4,000 enterprise advisors across the country, and we're looking really for high quality people who are really interested in taking this work on to help us really amplify the work that the enterprise advisors are doing. If a business has existing careers resources or campaigns, we can amplify those through our digital hub. It's a tool that teachers and careers leaders use and access really high quality materials that they can use in the classroom. So whether that's aligning what young people are learning in school to how it applies in real life jobs, so careers in the curriculum, we really look to amplify that. So when there are materials available from employers or sector bodies, we review those and then we can plug them into that system to really make sure there's uptake on the ground. And then we've got our new tool, the Employer Standards, which Marnie's going to be giving you a deep dive in a second. On top of all the sort of free work we do, we also offer bespoke funded partnership opportunities as well to employers who are really keen to accelerate careers education and support young people. Just a few examples of some of the funded partnerships we've got is JP Morgan Chase have invested over £4 million with us to really focus on turbocharging careers education for disadvantaged young people across England. Heathrow have taken a more regional focus and had funded enterprise coordinators in careers hubs around their site. Salesforce Foundation have invested over £1 million to boost digital pathways into apprenticeships because they know there's a huge skills gap and a real need for more uptake in the future. So they've been investing in young people in disadvantaged communities to understand how better to get into apprenticeships and what skills are needed in digital careers. And then Burberry Foundation is invested in supporting young people in disadvantaged communities in the Yorkshire and Humber region and helping them get into creative careers. So just some of the examples of some of the projects that we've been working on. Now I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Marnie to talk to you more about the employer standards.
Thanks, Matt. That's great. Lovely to see you all. Thank you. You can probably tell I am Australian originally. I've been in the UK about 20 years. Can't lose the accent, but it's lovely to be with you all. And thank you for sharing a wet Tuesday night with me. So next slide, please, Matt. Matt's kindly driving for me. As Matt has mentioned, this is all about just raising the quality of careers education outreach so that we can ensure that every young person meets their best next step, so that we can meet that evidence base where we know that the more employer engagement that exists, the more impact it has on young people, particularly those disadvantaged people. And what we're seeing through our work on the employer standards so far is what you see in those 4 points at the bottom. We're seeing early years recruitment going up, recruitment costs going down, workforce diversity going up, and skills gaps going down. So we know that the work that we've been doing in the development of the employer standards and the rollout has been working. And I'm really pleased to share it with you. Thanks, Matt. So why did we develop the employer standards? I suppose there is great practice happening all over the place, and people are doing some really good careers outreach in lots of locations, but it's not consistent. It's not happening everywhere. There are pockets of brilliance, but there are also pockets of pretty average careers education still happening in some places. And what we want to do is really sort of magnify that great practice and make sure that happens everywhere. And employers saying to us, look, just tell us what works and we'll do that, and we won't sort of stumble in our first steps. So that's the approach we started with. Thanks, Matt. So we've been developing the employer standards for around 2 years. We very much started with an open mind on this. Does the world need another benchmark? Does the world need another framework? Does the world need another indice? And we didn't want it to be one of those things that people felt developed into an industry that becomes so gargantuan that it's not helpful. And so we started with that approach of it has to be really well informed by industry and by sector bodies and business bodies. It was very clear to us. Everyone said we want it to be simple. We want it to be a self-assessment. We don't want to have to upload loads of evidence and verification. And we want something that fits and complements what's already out there. There are already lots of good local skills pledges and local things that happen. So something that complements that and doesn't try and recreate it. So that's the sort of underpinning principles. Thanks, Matt. So what are the employer standards? First and foremost, it is a framework. And so at its simplest, if you were to do nothing else other than look at the framework, we hope that you would just, have that be an experience that was useful for you to look across the 9 areas of the framework and say, oh, yes, we do something on that, could do more on that. Oh, that's interesting. Then if you really want to understand what it means for your business, you would take the self-assessment tool, and that's a free tool. It takes around 25 minutes to complete, and it immediately gives you results. You don't have to wait for anything. And I'll show you a little bit more about what you get at the end of that 25 minutes in a moment, but very much a way of raising quality and a way to sort of share that best practice. So this is the framework, and it is composed of 3 what we call pillars, these 3 colours. So the first pillar around inspiring young people, the second around preparing young people, and the third around collaboration. And I'm sure if you've done any work in careers education outreach and you're looking at these 3 pillars and you're looking at these 9 standards, you're thinking, well, there's nothing really revolutionary or new in that. And that is the point. The point is that we all know what the good practice is, but we want to sort of bottle it down and make sure that everyone's doing it every time that they step out into a school or college or special school. And we also wanted to do it in a way that the language resonates with everybody. And so even someone who's very much starting out, maybe a SME, maybe a micro, maybe a sole trader, that they don't get sort of daunted by jargon from the education world or things they don't understand. So we tested it extensively with not only our cornerstone employers, but also the British Chambers of Commerce worked with us on a number of pilots for SMEs. And we really sort of refined that language down a lot. And so we've got these 9 standards. The first is really around providing meaningful opportunities. So make sure that it is meaningful for each of the young people that you interact with and they're getting something out of it, and that you've thought a bit about their needs before you go into it rather than just one size fits all. The second one around being inclusive, and that's looking at everything from disadvantage and schools with high proportion of free school meals through to underrepresented groups in your workforce, through to special educational needs, neurodiversity, and so on. So that encompasses quite a lot and is quite a hot topic for a lot of employers at the moment. The third one is around evaluation. You wouldn't be surprised to know that's not one of the ones that scores the highest, and that's something I think we're all keen to sort of know how to do that evaluation better and make sure that's built in. Then we move on to that second pillar, and we're looking at essential skills, very much based on the Skills Builder framework. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, we're trying to plug into the things that already exist. Standard number 5 is around preparing young people for application processes. This is the one that's scoring the lowest of all the standards at the moment, and we're seeing that employers might be quite good at talking about, say, mock interviews, but maybe not some of the more modern psychometrics or assessment centres or virtual recruitment processes. So it's an easy fix if we can just highlight to employers what makes a difference. And standard 6 is around raising awareness of pathways. That's apprenticeships, vocational pathways, as well as higher education. Then we go into the third pillar, engaging over the long term. So that's very much building those relationships with institutions, engaging with the same cohort of young people more than once over their journey, partnering with others, that's careers leaders, school governors, curriculum leads, other employers, sector bodies, really making the most of the ecosystem that you work within. And then lastly, valuing the engagement. So treating it like any other business metric and making sure that there are some things that you can measure. We're seeing really interesting relationships between employers who look at their outreach and their intake. So they're able to say, actually, we've engaged with this school and we're seeing an uplift of applicants from this school, and therefore we know that that's helping our talent pipeline. So that is the standards framework in a nutshell. Obviously, there's more on that we can share with you afterwards, but I wanted to keep it quite whistle stop and have a chance to just show you the tool as well. So this is the self-assessment tool. When you go onto this, you come to this landing page. It's got a 1-minute animation, which you can look at. You're welcome to share that with others if you want to sort of talk about what that looks like. And that just brings it to life. Thanks, Matt. And then you go through, answer a series of questions. These are all, as I say, no evidence required. It's a self-assessment for your benefit to see where your strengths and gaps are and learn something from the process. Some of the questions are just as they are here, you're just ticking the boxes. Others it will say, do you do this some of the time, all of the time? Are you thinking of doing this? And once you've answered those questions, you get like the next slide, which is your results. So straight away you get your scores, and this is fairly unique. So most of the tools and benchmarks that are on the market, you sort of submit something and you have to wait a few months to get something back. So it's immediate results. You're given a score, but also a banding. So the bandings are aspiring, achieving, or exceeding in that order. And we'd expect most employers to be sort of at that achieving point, because exceeding is quite a stretch. So they'd have to be investing quite a lot of their time and have a real business, you really be seeing the returns on investment to be up there, which is a great stretch target. Thanks, Matt. And then you also get the immediate comparison to others. So you can see your comparison against businesses of your size, your sector, and your region. And we've had this in beta release since April. So we've got almost 400 employers who've used the tool already. So there's already a great amount of data to compare yourself against. And also, once you go in and use the tool, you can check back later without having to reuse the tool and compare against live data. So say you know, in January you go in and there are, you know, maybe 600 or 700 employers, you'd get a bigger data set to compare to. Thanks, Matt. You also get an immediate access to a recommendations report, and this shows you sort of what we suggest you do if you want to improve against any of these, and it links to 3 different types of resources. I'll just show you those 3. So the first of those is an evidence pack, and that tells you what's the latest evidence for this area of education outreach, what's the research telling us, and that can be particularly useful if you're wanting to sort of make the case to someone else, whether, you know, the board or someone else like that. Thanks, Matt. The second one is a taking action resource. So this gives you a really practical next steps and roadmap. So things you can do today to improve in this area, things you could do in 6 months, and things you can do in a year. And that is tailored to your size of business and also your score. So it is quite tailored, and we're building out that tailoring even further towards our priority sectors as well. So at the moment, we've got around 60 versions of this document, even though we've only got the 9 standards, but we're building that even more so people get the most relevant recommendations for them. Thanks, Matt. And then the third type of resource is the video case studies, and that is short films about 2 to 3 minutes long from each of the employers here from different sizes, sectors and regions, talking about what they have done to improve their education outreach on each of the standards. So, for example, Tesco, lovely video case study about their very strong on being inclusive, and they talk about taking some of their deaf employees out to local deaf school and sort of talking to them about their fashion buyers, and they talk to them about the careers that they've had there. So some really and what they've done to de-jargonize the language of their recruitment, and some really practical tips. So lots of nice stories there. So we hope that, you know, employers will continue to use the tool and that they will see that self-assessment as the beginning of the journey. We've had really good feedback on it, and actually we've had 96% of employers say that they plan to take action as a result of what they've learned, and over a third of those plan to take action within a month. So we're seeing that it is inspiring people to do something different and do something better about their careers education outreach. We hope they'll connect in with their local careers hub and get sort of some share what their strengths are, how they'd like to support young people in that area, but also learn from others about how they can improve on the areas that they may have an opportunity to improve on. I just want to share a couple of insights from our report from the first, we did an analysis of the first 342 employers who'd used the tool, just to see what that was telling us in terms of the aggregated data. And what we saw was, again, I think none of this is rocket science. You'd hope it would tell us these things, but it's really nice to have the evidence base. So it's telling us that those who do more in terms of promoting pathways are getting more applications, which is great. We're seeing that it's saving on recruitment costs. We're seeing that some sectors are doing more and benefiting more, and I'll show you just a couple of graphs on that in a moment. And we're also seeing what the areas for opportunity are. Okay, I'll just go through a couple of, I know this is hard at the end of the long day to look at a couple of charts, but just to bring it alive. And I've only selected 3 or 4 slides here from a wider pack of our evidence and insight report, which you may be interested to go and have a look at. But if we look at this last chart, what it's telling us is that employers who are doing the most on raising awareness, so the final bar chart, 79%, that's 4 times as many of those are telling us that they are seeing an increase in applications to their apprenticeship programs than those who are scoring the poorest on that standard. So we're seeing that translation between careers outreach and applicants to their program is really strong, 4 times as strong. Thanks, Matt. We're also seeing that employers are saying that they're seeing direct business benefits. They're seeing a much higher uptake in careers in their sectors from young people if they're investing a lot in careers education. They're seeing that's helping them sort of fill their talent pipelines. It's encouraging more applications. And even the bottom of this, which is reducing recruitment costs, we're seeing that over a third are saying they see a direct benefit on their bottom line in terms of reducing recruitment costs. So that's great. And quite a large proportion were not yet tracking that, so they weren't able to tell. But for those who were, they were actually able to tell. Thanks, Matt. Just some interesting sector data emerging. Obviously, we're still working with relatively small samples in terms of the sector breakdown, but we saw that health and construction are both outperforming other sectors in terms of their scores on the standards. And we know that they're sectors that have been investing quite a lot in this work. And if we go to the next slide, you'll also see that that marries up quite strongly with what we're seeing from young people's interests, because we also do a survey through schools, which is around 100,000 young people now, of which this is looking at the year 11s. That's about a sample of about 11,000 of what sector they would like to work in. And so we're seeing that those sectors that are working a lot in careers education are also performing quite strongly in terms of young people's interests. So I guess the message that I take from that is, if you're working one of the sectors that's not, it's not in the top 8, then maybe, you sort of, the war for talent is almost lost, and you need to be getting out there and sort of investing a bit in engaging with schools. Thanks, Matt. Just final chart here, which is just showing that of those 9 standards, the strongest one that has the highest scores is that raising awareness of pathways into work. The sample size at the moment is a little bit skewed towards our cornerstone employers, who are very much interested in promoting technical and vocational pathways. So we may see that change over time as we go out to a wider base. And the lowest scoring one I mentioned is that preparing young people for application processes. So it's great to get people excited, but you also need to help them actually make those application processes so they do join your sector and your business. Right, I think that's probably come to the final slide now. So I would love to hand over to Stuart just to give the employer perspective on having gone through the process of using the framework and the tool. So thanks, Stuart, for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, Marnie. Evening, everyone. So my name's Stuart Munton, so Chief of Delivery for tech consultancy called And Digital. So And Digital is a professional services company with about 1,500 people, mainly in the UK, with a small amount of people, about 100 people in the Netherlands. As an organisation, we've been looking as a kind of part of our mission to close the digital skills gap in the digital space that we work in. The war for talent is brutal, and if you don't start early, the pipeline will dry up, and it becomes such a problem, and then you end up this kind of spiral of costs, which we don't really want to have to deal with, but we actually want loads of people coming into the kind of digital space. So as a company, we have a whole load of outreach programs which we have been doing. So we do stuff with in London with the Mayor's Fund, we do stuff with BEMA, we do stuff as STEM ambassadors, and there's a whole variety of kind of different kind of pieces we did. And we kind of thought we were quite good, and that was good because we were kind of actively going out, we were actively engaging with schools, with universities, with disadvantaged groups. But then in July this year, I kind of signed a digital up as a cornerstone employer. So I joined as the kind of digital rep for West London. So in West London, obviously, it's kind of Heathrow and British Airways and Sky, large kind of digital employers in that kind of space. And they're kind of some of the clients that we have. And so therefore, we thought it'd be good for us to kind of join the cornerstone employers in that hub. As part of our induction in July, we went through the process of completing the employer standards, and it was really good. So as Marnie says, it takes 25 minutes, and it does take 25 minutes because you go through it and you go through the sections. And I know that kind of time is tight for everybody, but it's really worth doing, because 25 minutes is just get yourself a cup of coffee and go and do it. What we found from it was interesting for us, because as I said, like we were doing a whole variety of different outreach with young people and through to various other different groups. Kind of core things that we learned from it. One, we need to do more with educators themselves. So we were doing sessions with school age people, so it's great. We're doing kind of digital outreach sessions and a variety of different things with them, but actually the engagement with educators is that kind of really cool multiplier. And we hadn't really thought about this, but actually if we can get 10 computer science teachers to come in and spend some time with us, then they go out and then talk to 100 or 200 pupils each year, and that's a massive, great big multiplier for us. So one of the things we've kind of taken from the survey is we need to do more of that. Second thing, we need to do more parent outreach, and again, this is sort of from our point of view. Like, we live in a digital bubble. We all kind of think digital everything, but actually, if we're not actually talking, we're not actually communicating with the parents, and those parents are from backgrounds which don't understand the kind of digital workplace, don't understand what we do, there's no way that they can actually support and encourage their children to kind of get into kind of those roles. And so we're looking at now about how do we do more parent outreach, so educator outreach and employer outreach. And then the final thing that we took from it is we seem to be thinking that our outreach was us going to schools, which again, people should do, and everyone should be doing that kind of stuff. But actually, one of the things we took from the survey when we looked at our scores is going, actually, we should be having young people come to us. And we have 7 offices across central London. We should have more young people coming into us to see what working in a digital environment feels like. Because if your teacher is telling you, if your parents are telling you that these things are good, but you haven't actually seen it, then actually you're not going to kind of get the roundness of it. So therefore, the 3 things that we're doing is those kind of educator, parent, and then more in reach. I don't know if that's even the word, but we're getting kind of more people coming to us. And this was, as I said, like we came into this thinking we were quite good at this, and our score is quite good, but actually it also allowed us to kind of focus on the areas where we can get great. And that's what we've taken from the survey. So I encourage all of you to go and do it. It takes 25 minutes. You'll get some really good insight from it. You'll learn stuff. You'll work out what you can do better. And the more of us who are doing this type of stuff, the quicker we're going to close all these skills gaps. So that's my pitch from an employer point of view. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stuart. That's really helpful. It's always lovely to not just have us saying we think it's a great product, but to have that sort of endorsement. So thank you. And be really sort of open to any questions now. I think Stuart's able to stay a couple more minutes if you've got questions for him. And I can stay as long as you like for questions for me. So yeah, I'm really interested in any thoughts or questions.
I feel bad going first, but I might, especially because you said Stuart was going, I knew he had to go in a couple of minutes. So I might just pick up just to start us off on one bit of what you were saying, Stuart, which is about talking to educators. I think you said talking to teachers and the multiplier effect. And I suppose the question was, what's the sort of stuff you say to them? What are you kind of encouraging them to do? What's your sort of pitch to them? What's your call to action? Anyway,
yes,
yeah, that's my question.
So we're trying to bring people in who have found the vocation to actually go and teach and actually spend time with young people, and they actually want to encourage them. But quite often, if they have come through university and they've gone into teaching immediately, so they may not have the experience of working in a digital environment, or if they left the digital environment 10 years ago, it's very different now. And so getting educators into the environments we work in helps us to be able to explain to them, actually, well, you may have experienced this 10 years ago before you went into education. You may never have experienced this because you went straight into education after university. And this is kind of how we work now. There is a gap between what is taught at school and what is then taught at university, and then what is done in industry. And that gap, depending on who you talk to, could be kind of 5 years in each of those steps. And so stuff that we're having to do with our clients is AI driven, it is continuous X, everything. It is metrics driven and data driven. Whereas stuff that's in university is slightly further behind that, and stuff that's taught in school is slightly further behind that. And it's sort of joining that thread up to go, actually, this is kind of where you're going to get to. But also to the point that actually the market that we're showing them now, and the people that we're doing, the clients we're working with, and the type of things we're doing, we know will be significantly different in 5 years from now. It would be significantly different in 2 years from now. Yeah, the software engineering market is changing so quickly because of AI, and so we get people in to go, this is where you need to be thinking about this, and it's exciting, and it's trying to convey some of that excitement that we have and the work that we do with our clients to educators so they can excite the kind of the next but one generation, and that's the type of stuff that we want to do with educators.
Right, and just to add to that, we have a number of programs through CEC. One is called Careers in the Curriculum, which is around building in what is relevant to the curriculum from the world of careers. We've just launched the latest module with Pfizer, so looking at helping make what a young person studies in their GCSEs or A levels really resonate with what they might do in their future life. And then similarly in that world, we've just taken a group of teachers out for a teacher encounter in Oxford Biomedica, looking at the latest innovations in the biotech world. And again, as Stuart said, some of these teachers studied biology 15, 20 years ago. Things have changed a lot, and it's just great for them to be enthused and exposed to that and bring that excitement back into the classroom.
I'll put a bit more guidance on our teacher encounters work in the chat as well, if anyone wants to have a look in their own time. Gareth.
I suppose a couple of things really. One, earlier on in the call, there was mention, Matt, of the work of enterprise advisors with schools and stuff. If anyone's on the call and isn't involved in that sort of volunteering, I'd wholeheartedly recommend it for your business purposes, as well as personal reward, as well as helping to generate the next or develop the next generation of talent, because I've done it since sort of day one of the Enterprise Advisor Network and found it beneficial in many ways. And actually, a lot of big business do quite rate it as CSR work as well, and value that time we put back in. So that's really good. It would be interesting, I'm just dropping you a line, Stuart, to pick up on some of your challenges around the future workforce, because one of the companies I am part of is an apprenticeship training company, and we partner with Microsoft and Google and others to deliver digital transformation programs in whole multi-academy trusts and in schools. And we've managed to leverage significant sums, sort of $500,000 plus, of apprenticeship levy funds from Lloyds Bank, amongst others, to pay for it, so that the schools don't have to pay anything. So that might well be worth a conversation, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. So the more that we can encourage people, and again through the levy, through apprenticeships, through everything else that goes with it, everybody is trying to make sure how they can get that into kind of digital skills and other markets. I come from a very digital background, so that's why I'm biased. So, but like even into the folks I was talking to at the Youth Career Summit on last week about the construction work they're doing, the really cool stuff they're doing. It's just getting people connected and getting in early with educators, with pupils, and with their parents. Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gareth, for that, and your work as an enterprise advisor. It's great to hear you've been so involved and you found it so beneficial as well for yourself and your organisation.
It has been good, and I ended up with one. I started with one school, which I think is what we're meant to be working with, but I've ended up with several. So it's just, that's what happens when you're John Yarham's referee for a job interview. So.
Oh, great to hear. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Ali, I think you were next with your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I had a slightly different technical question. I really like the platform and the sort of graphics and the data. So is it all sort of bespoke, and do you have an app? I work for a school. We don't necessarily participate in this part of the industry, but our students do everything through an app, and it's hard to get them to look at the website. So I was wondering if this is something that you also have to get the students engaged.
Yeah, so in terms of the employer standards, it is just aimed at employers as users. We don't have an app. We do have a mobile enabled site, and it works pretty well on mobile. And we have had, I think, about 30% of people use the self-assessment on mobile. In terms of our other products like the Future Skills Questionnaire, which is through schools, I'm not the expert in that, but I believe that they do that with their careers leaders, and they do that on the computer, on the PC with their careers leaders. But yeah, I'm afraid in terms of our student facing products, I can't comment. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Ali. Over to Adam.
Hello. Just I think it was touched on like right at the very start when you were talking about not wanting to replicate or duplicate things that were already out there. So just interested to hear how you've actually avoided that, because obviously there are a lot of different advice and guidance services, and you know there's a tender at the moment for careers advice and guidance in the prison system and in custodial settings, and there'll be others that are out there. There's National Careers Service, there's a lot of other ones. So how have you managed to create something that collaborates and doesn't overlap too much?
Yeah, I think first, starting out by talking to a lot of different people in the sector, and we work with National Careers Service. We work with Gatsby, and who run the benchmarks in schools. We Skills Builder, with a number of different business bodies, with business in the community from a CSR perspective, and so on. And then also, I think the level at which we're giving that advice is very much at the strategic level, and that with some practical ideas, but in terms of, we're not doing the delivery. So our careers leaders, we provide that training that's separate to the employer standards. That's part of our national infrastructure. But and again, they are careers leaders for the strategic program at the school. They're not careers advisors. So I think it's just knowing where we sit in that system. The other thing is that we have a provider directory. So for specialist providers, of which I think we've got about 700 listed on our directory, who provide programs that are aimed at particular groups of young people, or particular disadvantage, or in particular regional locations. We already have a directory. Now, that in the past, that directory was aimed at careers leaders, and that was for careers leaders in schools to be able to look and see which local activity providers they could tap into. But as part of this process, we are doing an employer facing version of that directory as well. So it's built, but it's not yet populated, because we had a slight problem with the directory, but it should be populated by the end of this month. And then the employer standards recommendations will also point people to that directory, and it will say, if you want more help than a Careers Hub can give, because Careers Hub provides some help and connection, but it's not there to provide, in most cases, or the regional variations, in most cases not there to provide very detailed delivery on the ground for specialist groups. Then it can direct you to a relevant provider who might be able to help you with that. So we're definitely wanting to be that sort of arms around the system, and not to sort of have mission creep in terms of what we do, which is to be a national best practice and the infrastructure.
Cool.
I've just spotted Andrew's question in the chat, which is, are universities signed up to careers hubs, or is it just schools? So the careers hubs support schools and colleges. However, universities, Marnie, correct me if I'm wrong here, universities work closely often with careers hubs, and sometimes are they cornerstone employers too? I think we have some universities who might be cornerstone employers.
We have a couple, yeah, but we're
Yeah.
very much aimed at that schools and colleges and special schools. And I've had some really interesting chats with FE College careers leaders over the last couple of weeks, who are really keen. They obviously work with a lot of employers as part of their placements, and really keen to use the tool as part of, particularly taking on board a new employer and having that early conversation to understand what the strengths are and how they fit into their program.
Neil.
Yeah, hi, good evening. My question relates to digital twins, and I was wondering if anyone that spoke this evening, maybe Stuart initially, and the work around digital twins and the need to educate not only the public but students coming through schools and FE into using digital twins, and if there are going to be benchmarks written on training of digital twins, how we go about that, because it's very complex.
A good set of questions. Not that I know of from our side, because we're again, we do work which does connect into that kind of space, but we would basically end up training our own people or finding other places outside this. So this is very early advice and direction, but again, it should be into that. It was interesting when we were talking with the folks from Barclays last week in the construction work, because they were going, actually construction and digital, there is a lot of digital in that space for the kind of the digital twins of buildings, and having that space. And they were going, we need digital people as well as people in hard hats and boots. Yeah, and so therefore that was really interesting to kind of get their view on it, because again, we write software, but they build buildings, but buildings need software. And so therefore it was really interesting to get that view. But from a specific thing, I don't know. But again, it's a really good point.
And I don't know what a digital twin is, I'm afraid. That's what I'm going off to look. That's my homework.
I might just ask one question, if that's not too bad, having the chair's prerogative to ask two. I didn't. I was googling digital twins as well, by the way, so I kind of thought you might have caught me there. Sometimes a point people make, although interestingly haven't come up so far in this session, is about the kind of timescales involved, because I think Gareth captured very well the real enthusiasm for, you know, proactivity. And it seems to me that what you described here has been almost like, yeah, the complete opposite of, you kind of wait till you need somebody in a job and it's vacant and you put an advert on indeed.com, and you know, this is like, say, the opposite of that. It's a really interesting, exciting model and session. But I kind of took it because I was thinking about timescales. I mean, if you weren't quite, you know, waiting just to fill a vacancy tomorrow, but you wanted to perhaps be able to see some of that payback sooner rather than later. It sounds from the way you've all been talking as if, yes, ideally, I think probably, you know, the kind of, you do better the earlier you intervene in somebody's kind of career path. But it does sound, this is the question bit, that you can actually have some real benefits, both for the school, the young person, and the business within a kind of year or two of that leaving school or college. But that was the question, really. Is that true, I guess, is the question. Thank you.
I can answer it from a kind of digital point of view, and again, it's been interesting. So, and digital's 10 years old. When we first started, we were basically recruiting people with computer science degrees, and that was the norm at that point. That's changed quite a lot. I mean, we still have recruit lots of people with computer science degrees, but since the levelling up agenda came through and the digital boot camps came through, we are also recruiting a lot more people who've gone through a 13-week free at use course. They learn JavaScript and they can actually learn to code quite quickly. They then come through a kind of more structured education and learning through us as an organization, but we are finding that, and so therefore we want the funnel to be fuller at the start, which is why actually going and talking to 7-year-olds about this stuff is really important. But I get the point that actually we can now talk to 16-year-olds and say, actually, because you didn't choose computer science at GCSE, you didn't choose these sorts of options, but the pathways are not closed, because there are kind of new ways to kind of come into the digital environment from our side. So I can't talk from any other kind of industries, but for us, it's been really interesting seeing how that shifted over the last 3 to 5 years, because there's more routes coming in, and the traditional 10-year path of choosing your GCSEs, doing GCSEs, A-levels, degree, and then coming into a job are not always the ways around that. Plus also with the technical apprenticeships as well, so which are really good.
Yeah, and I think just based on some of the conversations I've heard from employers, if they're in a sector which is very competitive and engage a lot in the education space, they're often having multiple interactions with a cohort of young people over time to try and keep them on track to their brand almost. So I think that, you know, there are definitely benefits of engaging at any point, but there are some sectors who are seeing that benefit of long term and multiple engagements over multiple year groups.
I was enjoying this conversation so much, I nearly forgot that I was supposed to bring us to a kind of gentle close by 6 o'clock. And I guess we probably have time for one more hand, if that was. Hopefully, I didn't cut.
It's Jonathan here. I just thought I'd mention something.
Yeah, do.
I know
why
he's
don't you
talked
have
a lot
the
about digital.
last question. Oh, go ahead. John, if you can hear us, the mic's yours, but I'm not sure if you can hear us.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah,
no,
I think there might have been quite a delay. Yeah, I was just saying, I think there's quite a few folks here from a digital background, so I'm not trying to take over. But I think the other thing that's also useful is understanding what enterprise schemes are available. So I run an IT apprentice scheme through my company for a number of employees. And I think, yeah, getting them onto that early on in their career is quite important. So giving some of the fundamentals in technology, and it's actually, if you're a small employee, you only have to pay a very small amount of the 16,000 that it would cost you to run the diploma. Typically, it's £800 per person, which is quite a significant saving as a result of the government incentive schemes with the various professions. There might be something else to share as well.
John, thanks for coming in. That's a really good point for us to finish on, actually, and a really useful, practical one. Thank you. Yusuf, I've noticed you put some very useful links about membership and benefits of, and the current discount in the chat. So thank you for that. I will, as promised, bring us to a close by 6. And thank you very much to Marnie. Thank you, Matt, Stuart. Thank you to everyone else. So great presentations and some great questions. It did occur to me, and perhaps let's think about it offline. You mentioned construction in one of the early slides, and we have a number of special interest groups. Obviously, education's the best, but there are others, I allegedly. But construction, I know, speaking to Richard, who chairs that the other day, they're really kind of crying out for solutions for their members to skills gaps. So that might be another kind of useful IoD connection if that's not been made already. But look, thank you. You all made the points very well for me, so it's a bit of a formality. But the benefits of ties with local communities came through very, very strongly. But also these, and thanks for making it so clear, the benefits, the help that's available to develop employability skills in the next generation. And also this kind of very practical point about helping to develop talent pipelines and alleviate skills shortages. And whilst it still consistently comes out for IoD as kind of second, so very, very high up consistently over many kind of months and years, it's really good to be able to talk in terms of solutions to those problems. So thanks to you all. We'll I'm sure a couple of us probably hang around for a few minutes and won't just sort of click the leave button straight away, but I'd like to thank you for your attendance, and I hope to see you again very soon at an event like this or one in person. So thanks very much to you all.
Thanks everyone.
Take care.
Thank you,
the
everyone.
rain stopped. Have a good rest of the day. See you later. Take care.